You did everything right. You worked hard. You achieved goals. You built the life that was supposed to make you happy. The career, the relationship, the apartment, the accomplishments, the external markers of a life well lived. And yet, there's this feeling. This quiet, persistent emptiness that you can't explain and don't want to admit. Because how do you tell people you feel empty when your life looks full? How do you say you're struggling when, objectively, everything is fine? So, you don't say it. You keep showing up. You keep performing. You keep pretending that having what you wanted is the same as feeling fulfilled. But late at night, when you're alone with yourself, the emptiness becomes impossible to ignore. It's not depression. Exactly. You're not sad all the time. You can still laugh, still function, still get through your days. It's more like nothing feels as meaningful as it's supposed to. Like you're going through the motions of a life that should satisfy you, but doesn't. You look at your achievements and feel nothing. You reach milestones that once motivated you and find them hollow. You get the promotion, the recognition, the thing you work toward, and instead of fulfillment, there's just more emptiness. And the worst part, you feel guilty for feeling this way. Because you know people would kill for the life you have. You know there are real problems in the world, real suffering. Who are you to feel empty when you have so much? So, you push the feeling down. You tell yourself to be grateful. You list all the things you should be happy about. You try to convince yourself that this emptiness ain't real, that it's just ingratitude or self-indulgence. But it doesn't go away. It sits there, beneath everything, a quiet void that no amount of achievement or acquisition seems to fill. You scroll through social media and see other people who seem genuinely happy, who seem to find meaning in their lives, who don't appear to be haunted by this persistent sense that something essential is missing. And you wonder what's wrong with you, why you can't just be satisfied, why having everything you thought you wanted isn't enough. Maybe you try to fill the emptiness. You pursue new goals, thinking the next achievement will be the one that finally satisfies. You buy things, change your appearance, start new projects, seek new experiences. But the emptiness adapts. It remains unchanged, no matter what you pour into it. Because here's what no one tells you. The emptiness isn't about what you do and have. It's about what you've lost connection to. And you can't fix that with external achievements. The emptiness isn't a problem to solve. It's a message you've been ignoring. A signal that something in how you're reliving has become disconnected from something essential in who you are. But you've been too busy achieving to listen, too focused on doing to consider being, too committed to the life you built to question whether it's the life you actually want. There's a specific kind of suffering that comes from having a life that looks perfect but feels empty. Because no one understands. When you try to explain it, you see confusion in their eyes. Or worse, judgment, like you're ungrateful, like you're making up problems because you have nothing real to complain about. So, you stop trying to explain. You learn to perform contentment, to say the right things when people ask how you're doing, to smile in photos and post the highlights and maintain the image of someone who has it all together. But internally, you're drowning in a sea of nothing. And the more your external life looks successful, the more isolated you feel in your emptiness. This is the paradox no one talks about. Achievement doesn't guarantee fulfillment. You can check every box society tells you matters and still feel fundamentally unfulfilled. Because those boxes, the career, the status, the possessions, the image, they were never designed to fill the void. They were designed to distract from it. Think about how you got here. Probably, from a young age, you learned that your worth was tied to what you did, to your grades, your achievements, your productivity. You learned that love was conditional on performance, that being enough meant doing enough. So, you performed, you achieved. You did everything you were supposed to do to earn worth, love, acceptance. And it worked, in a way. People praised you, recognized you, validated you. You got the career, the relationship, the life you were told would make you happy. But somewhere along the way, you lost touch with yourself, with what you actually need, feel, want. Because those things weren't relevant to the achievement game. They were distractions from productivity, obstacles to success. So, you learned to ignore them, to push through feelings rather than honor them, to prioritize doing over being, to measure your worth by output rather than existence. And now you have everything you worked for, except you don't have yourself. You don't know what you actually enjoy anymore, separate from what you're supposed to enjoy. You don't know what brings you genuine fulfillment versus what brings external validation. You've become a stranger to your own desires, a performer in your own life, and the emptiness. That's the part of you that got left behind, trying to get your attention. The version of you that needs rest but only knows how to work harder, that craves connection but only knows how to achieve, that wants meaning but only knows how to accumulate. That part is still there, beneath the achievements and the image, and it's empty. Not because you're broken, but because you've been feeding the wrong hunger. You've been trying to fill an internal void with external solutions, and it doesn't work. It can't work, because the emptiness isn't asking for more achievement. It's asking for you to come home to yourself. The emptiness isn't random, it's specific. And understanding what it's pointing toward is the first step toward addressing it. You're not empty because you lack success. You're empty because you lack connection. Connection to yourself, to others, to something that feels meaningful beyond productivity and achievement. Think about the last time you felt genuinely alive, not happy in a superficial way, but deeply present, connected to the moment rather than performing in it. Chances are, it wasn't during a major achievement. It was probably something simple, a conversation where you felt truly seen. A moment in nature where you forgot to check your phone. A creative expression that came from you, not from what you thought you should be. Those moments don't fit neatly into the achievement framework. They don't earn status or impress anyone. They can't be optimized or put on a resume. But they're what your emptiness is hungry for. Not more doing, more being, not more validation, more authenticity. Not more achievement, more aliveness. The problem is, you've spent so long in achievement mode that you don't know how to access these things anymore. You've optimized your life for productivity, and in the process, you've optimized out the very things that make life feel meaningful. You've scheduled every moment, so there's no space for spontaneity. You've professionalized every hobby, so there's no room for play. You've curated your image so carefully that there's no permission for authenticity. And then you wonder why you feel empty, why nothing satisfies, why you can't seem to find the thing that will finally make you feel fulfilled. It's because fulfillment isn't a thing you find. It's a state you allow, and you've structured your entire life to prevent it. You're so busy chasing the next goal that you can't be present for this moment. So focused on who you should be that you've lost touch with who you are. So committed to looking successful that you've sacrificed actually feeling satisfied. The emptiness is telling you this. It's not a flaw to fix or a problem to solve, it's information, a signal that the way you're living is aligned with what you actually need. You need rest, but you've made rest conditional on first earning it through productivity. You need connection, but you've made connection dependent on being impressive enough to deserve it. You need meaning, but you've outsourced your sense of meaning to external validation, and none of that works, because rest isn't earned, it's necessary. Connection isn't deserved, it's fundamental. Meaning isn't granted, it's created. The emptiness will persist until you start honoring these truths, until you stop trying to achieve your way out of it and start being your way through it. When you first notice the emptiness, the instinct is to fill it, to find something, anything that will make it go away. So, you try. You pursue new goals, thinking accomplishment will satisfy. You start new relationships, hoping connection will complete you. You buy things, change things, do things, all in an attempt to fill the void. But the void doesn't fill, it just shifts, adapts, remains, because you're approaching it wrong. You're treating emptiness a deficiency to correct rather than a message to hear. The emptiness isn't there because you lack something external. It's there because you're disconnected from something internal. And you can't fix internal disconnection with external solutions. This is why people can have everything and still feel empty. Why success doesn't guarantee fulfillment. Why more of what you thought you wanted doesn't make you feel better. You're trying to solve the wrong problem. The problem isn't that you don't have enough. It's that you're not connected enough to yourself, to the present moment, to what actually matters to you beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. Think about how you've been approaching the emptiness. Probably with the same strategy you approach everything else. Fix it. Solve it. Make it go away through effort and achievement. But emptiness doesn't respond to those methods. You can't achieve your way out of it. You can't optimize it away. You can't distract from it successfully long term, because every time you try to fill it with something external, you're reinforcing the pattern that created it in the first place. The pattern of looking outside yourself for validation, meaning, worth, and that pattern is the problem. Not because looking outward is inherently wrong, but because you've made it your only strategy. You've forgotten how to look inward, how to generate meaning internally rather than seeking it externally. So, you stay empty. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing the wrong thing. You're running from the emptiness instead of turning toward it, trying to escape it instead of understanding it. And the more you run, the more it follows. The more you try to fill it, the more hollow the filling feels. Because what the emptiness actually needs isn't more, it's less. Less doing, more being. Less achieving, more allowing. Less performance, more presence. It needs you to stop long enough to actually feel it, to ask what it's trying to tell you, to listen to what's missing rather than immediately trying to fix it. That's uncomfortable. Because sitting with emptiness feels vulnerable, like admitting defeat, like accepting that you don't have all the answers. But that discomfort is exactly what you need. That vulnerability is the doorway to what you've been missing, the solution to emptiness and filling it. It's learning to be with it, to stop running long enough to understand what it's asking for. This doesn't mean wallowing. It means listening. Maybe it's pointing toward rest, toward the fact that you've been running on achievement and validation for so long that you've forgotten how to simply be, that you need permission to exist without producing. Maybe it's pointing toward authenticity, toward the gap between who you actually are and who you perform being, toward the exhaustion of maintaining an image that doesn't reflect your reality. Maybe it's pointing toward meaning, toward the realization that the goals you've been chasing were never really yours, that you've been climbing a ladder leaned against the wrong wall, that what you thought would fulfill you was just what you thought you should want. Whatever it's pointing toward, the only way to find out is to stop, to create space, to allow yourself to not be okay without immediately trying to fix it. This is the hardest thing for achievers to do, because stopping feels like failing. Space feels like wasting time. Not being okay feels like weakness. But it's not. It's courage. The courage to question the life you built. To admit that having everything doesn't mean everything is right. To honor your actual experience rather than your expected experience. And when you do this, when you stop performing and start being, something shifts. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually, you start to reconnect with yourself, with what actually matters to you. With a sense of aliveness that doesn't depend on achievement. You start to notice things you'd been too busy to see, to feel things you'd been too defended to allow, to want things that have nothing to do with status or validation. And slowly, the emptiness begins to transform. Not because you filled it with more stuff, but because you started filling your life with more substance, with presence, with authenticity, with things that genuinely matter to you rather than things you think should matter. The emptiness doesn't disappear completely. It becomes a guide. A reminder when you are drifting back into performance mode. When you are prioritizing achievement over aliveness. When you are disconnecting from yourself again. And instead of fearing it, you learn to work with it. To see it as information rather than failure. as redirection rather than deficiency. You learn that having a perfect-looking life isn't the goal, having a life that feels real is. That fulfillment isn't found in achievement, it's found in alignment. In living in a way that honors who you actually are, not who you think you should be. And that's not something you can achieve. It's something you allow, by creating space, by being present, by choosing authenticity over image, connection over status, being over doing. The emptiness was never the problem. It was the solution, the thing trying to wake you up, to bring you back to yourself. And now, finally, you're listening.